Hey, it's Ed Kaminsky. We're checking in today on our video series, and we're sitting here with Michael Allmon from Michael B. Allmon and Associates, one of the most prominent CPAs in California, if not the United States, if not the world.
Thank you, Ed.
So who are you, Mike? And what I mean by that is, how long have you been a CPA, and do you say you have a specialty that you like to focus on for your clients?
I've been a CPA for over 40 years, practicing throughout the Los Angeles area. Been in Manhattan Beach for about 10 years now.
Okay.
I've lived in Manhattan Beach my entire career, my entire time here in California, after Texas to Manhattan Beach. But the focus of our firm is wealthy families. My career came out of entertainment industry and wealthy, high-income families. It was our responsibility to help high-income people become wealthy.
Right.
And so that's really been the focus of this firm. Well, I've worked for a number of bands. I've worked for about half the bands at Woodstock.
Is that right?
Yeah, the only one that I have permission to discuss right now is Grateful Dead. I worked for Grateful Dead since the 70s.
Terrific.
Still work for the Grateful Dead. Spend a lot of time today working with them.
Well, as you know, I represent a lot of homeowners and home buyers in a variety of price ranges, from first-time home buyers to wealthy real estate investors. Taxes seems to be really a big benefit sometimes to owning real estate. Can you share a couple thoughts from your perspective about tax benefits as it relates to the real estate world?
Real estate does have a number of tax benefits. It's like any economic decision, you want to look at the whole decision, not just the tax side of it, but certainly an investment in real estate allows somebody to actually deduct the cost of their investment over a period of time through depreciation. And then when they sell the properties, they have the ability to achieve long-term capital gains if structured properly, or better than that, they can defer the gain to death, and at death there's what we call a step-up in basis, so that the people who inherit their property would not pay. There is no income tax.
I'm going to stay on that for a second. I know there's a lot of intricacies to all of these things, but I've heard of a step-up in tax basis when a spouse passes away, and so their base steps up to the value of it is at the time of death. Therefore, if they sold right then and there may not be taxes, correct?
Well, there's generally there is an exclusion on property between spouses, so there's generally not a tax, an estate tax, on property that's inherited from a spouse.
Right, but if
on
the
the
second spouse sold it, if the spouse that lived sold it the next day, per se.
Okay, it's important how title is held, but as long as title is held properly, that is the case. So most forms of title would have a step-up in basis. Joint tenancy, you have to be careful. A lot of real estate is owned in joint tenancy, and joint tenancy does have that disadvantage. There is a disadvantage to joint tenancy.
So that brings a great question. So when it comes to holding title, who should people ask for the proper way to hold title? Their CPA?
Probably their estate attorney. The questions such as, estate planning to us is a team sport. The attorney is the primary player in the team. The CPA handles because the attorney drafts documents and helps focus the plan. The CPA is involved on the financial side, though. A lot of times the attorneys don't know their clients' financial situations.
Right.
And the CPA, especially the CPA has an estate tax background, the CPA can kind of marry the financial side with the dispositive provisions. In other words, where the property is going to go and what's the best way to get it there and what the financial implications are, what the choices are really.
Gotcha. So it could be a variety of people, but either a state attorney or a CPA or a combo.
Well, estate planning really, again, is a team sport, and it's really not just, it's the CPA, it's the attorney, it can be insurance advisors, it can be the investment advisors. Really, everybody needs to be involved to some extent. So the attorney is kind of generally the leader of that team. The CPA is usually the financial side, though. He or she brings in the financial side of the estate planning.
I guess another question is, are there tax ramifications of owning real estate in a negative way?
Well, if you sell, you pay tax on the gain if you've got a gain.
Right.
If it's a personal residence and you have a loss, it's not a deductible loss, so that's negative.
Okay.
I think generally, though, as long as it's planned properly and you're careful, the advantage of real estate generally outweigh the disadvantages.
Yeah, that was a question. I mean, you've been doing this for 40 years, so would you say that the advantages of owning real estate on a tax basis definitely surpasses the consequences of having to pay those taxes?
The real estate lobby has always been pretty strong in Congress.
Yeah.
So generally, real estate is tax advantaged over a number of other investments.
I don't think I've ever asked you this question before, but do you have an opinion in what the future might hold as it relates to long-term capital gains? I know there's talk about removing it, reducing it. There's obviously benefits with long-term capital gains. Do you think that's going to change?
Yeah, okay, so my opinion is there shouldn't be a tax on long-term capital gains because long-term capital gains is basically inflation. So basically it's, a property increases in value often because of inflation.
Right.
It may increase because somebody's put some effort into it and fixed it up and done something to cause the value to increase. So maybe that should be taxed, but how do you determine what's inflation, what's not?
Right.
But that was kind of one of the original theories of long-term capital gains was because they're taxing inflation, you shouldn't tax it at the full normal rate.
I like your thinking.
So, I mean, really, I would like to see a repeal of capital gains. I'd like to see no tax on capital gains. Of course, I'm a tax guy, so you expect me to say that, right?
But I've heard people talk about the fact that, there's such large debt, federal debt, that maybe removing long-term capital gains and making it tax as ordinary income could happen. Do you think that actually could happen?
The problem is, and nobody really knows. I mean, if you remember the Reagan years when the rates were lowered and suddenly the economy was spurred because the economy wasn't burdened by income tax costs.
Right.
So the economists there's a mix of economists who believe that if you lower the tax rates, you spur the economy, you improve the economy. Of course, it improves certain sections of the economy more than other. So it's more than just economic question. It's obviously
there's a lot of perspectives on that, and I know there's no right answer. I was just curious personally. We're based in California, as you know. It's one of the most taxed states in the union. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, California is one of the highest. California and New York are the highest.
I could just say from my perspective, I'll just add that what I see here personally is that even though we're taxed heavily here, we do have the benefit of great weather, great jobs.
That's why we're here, isn't it?
And in the real estate world, I see great appreciation and people making a lot of wealth from that appreciation, which hopefully offsets the negative of the extra 13.5% taxes we pay.
Yeah, kind of combining the California tax rate with the federal capital gains we were talking about. There is no such thing as capital gains in California. Capital gains in California are ordinary income. And California budget is very dependent on capital gains. In the years when capital gains are down in the state, that's when the state in California often has budget issues. If the economy is doing well and people are selling and they're incurring capital gains and paying tax on capital gains, California does a better job with its budgets.
And I guess back to the first question. You are really the smartest person I know as it relates to taxes. So, as it relates to properly and legally protecting yourself from paying too much in tax, what is the best advice or tax strategy you have for either this year or next year that you can share with anyone that's listening?
It's actually a very personal question too, because each person has a different tax situation. Even very wealthy people's situations are different. From one wealthy family is different from another wealthy family. We find that, oddly enough, that the income tax isn't always the focus. I mean, the income tax is a focus, definitely, but the estate tax is the focus of wealthy families generally, because it's a tax that you pay the income tax, and what you've got left over, you pay another tax. Really, I mean, that is true. You do. If your estate is large enough to pay an estate tax. Again, for wealthy families, that's the case.
So I hear planning is probably one of the most important.
That's the only. That is the only thing you can do to minimize taxes. And again, each family's situation is different, and so each family's tax plan will be different than another. And again, what we try to do is we try to marry the income tax and the estate tax planning for our clients.
Perfect. And any last thoughts that you feel you want to add or share at all while we're here?
Real estate definitely has tax benefits. I think that when you make decisions with respect to anything, real estate or any investment, the decisions depend on what the purpose of the property is. For example, decision relating to your personal residence will be a different decision than a decision relating to an investment property.
Right.
A decision relating to what property you're going to buy to live in is more influenced by emotional factors than it is by rational factors. property that you're going to buy as an investment is going to be more influenced the other way, by rational
Certainly,
factors.
yeah.
But it's still going to be, every decision is influenced partially by emotional factors, and that's one of the things we work with our clients, trying to help them make decisions. We're somewhat financial psychologists in that,
Okay.
in that regard.
Well, on that note, are you taking on any new clients at this time, or where are you in that regards?
We do take new clients. We don't take very many new clients each year, but we do take new clients.
Too selective on who they are, and it has to be a match for
Because
both of them.
we don't want somebody to come in here and feel like they're not. We want them to fit us. We want us to fit them. So
Okay.
but the answer is yes. We do take new clients. Really, not this time of year though.
Gotcha.
After tax season, we will be more willing to talk.
Yeah. Gotcha. All right. Well, I appreciate the time that you sharing with me and us and
And the
all your
armadillos.
insight and the armadillos. So thank you.
Thank you,
Really
Ed.
appreciate it. Thank you. And I'm Ed Kaminsky from the Kaminsky Real Estate Group, sitting with Michael Allmon at Michael B. Allmon and Associates. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again soon.